All right. Yes, welcome to Mindful Life. Oh, Tony the Ambassador, welcome to Mindful Life 470. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for joining. Good night, good night, good night. It is currently the 27th of February, nearly the ending of this very short month, the shortest of all months, the shortest month that they gave to the black people. And say, hey, this is your Black History Month, take it. How are things? How are things? We are streaming live here currently 9:51 p.m. on the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, paradise on earth where God himself has residence, they say. They say God himself has residence here, so make sure you're behaving yourself well. Make sure you're behaving yourself well. What's going on, host? Host wants to say hi. Tell the people hello. Say good night. And the people over here too. Tell the people good night. Say good night, people. All right. And we're live on a Thursday, and on Thursday we're talking about whatever comments or questions we have on the inside, whatever is making the news this Thursday. Feel free to jump in, we can have that discussion. As I said in the news, as I was looking at it, I saw that Trump ends Chevron Venezuela oil production deal. There was a little deal going on there with Venezuela. They seemed like they were getting some concessions going. It seems like they were getting some concessions going to, get things running, get their gas flowing a little better. Get their gas flowing a little better. And the US has said, nah, scratch that dead. And that's kind of scary when it comes to us, because we have a dragon deal that we're hoping stays intact with Venezuela there. And if it seems like this present administration is having a bit of a change of heart when it comes to how Venezuela and the gas dealings go, that could be some pains for us. That could be some pains for us. We're already hearing that our Prime Minister most likely is going to have to head out to the United States at some point in time. I believe he's retiring on March the 16th, is it? So maybe sometime before that, or it will be left to the next Prime Minister, we'd have to go out there to the United States to ask for an extension on our deal with Venezuela for that Shell gas project out there in Venezuela. While our Prime Minister, hopeful, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, is out here fully insulting Venezuela, taking a very hard stance. Well, not Venezuela itself, the current Venezuelan government, Nicolas Maduro, calling him all manner of maybe truthful but harsh words nonetheless. And our Prime Minister currently, the current Prime Minister, he's saying no, he doesn't agree with that. He thinks that's a bad idea. Now, I think Mrs. Persad-Bissessar to some extent is going on the hard line with Venezuela, because she looks like she's aiming to align herself directly with that kind of more right-wing populist movement that seems to be sweeping through the Western world. If you could be a friend to Trump, that's a good friend to be. So maybe that's why she's using some of the rhetoric she is using. I see Gary Griffith is attempting to become much more diplomatic. I like it. I like this new, more diplomatic Double G. Very few things said kind of off the cuff and fly off the handles. It's much more reserved and measured. Double G seems to be becoming a bit more serious about gunning for that prime ministerial portfolio. I don't know how well they will do with their new their new alliance that they're building, their new coalition, with it running opposing to the UNC coalition and running opposing to the PNM. That's a hard win to make for Double G and his crew. But he is speaking much more at that leadership level these days. I'd give him that. Running on in the news. What else we have? In the news? Charges against ex-SSA employees, police officer dropped. That's, I believe, the spy pastor. The alleged spy pastor from Arima. Those charges were dropped. Yikes. So, and the charges were dropped. The charges were dropped because it seemed like the police didn't do all that the prosecution didn't do all that they were supposed to do inside of that. So, charges against him and another are dropped, unfortunately. I saw some kind of mad story too. A bandit robs a motorist in a roadblock. So the bandits block the road and then rob somebody. Yikes. So not only the police doing it. 5 Venezuelans held for human trafficking to Trinidad. That's out in Venezuela. They held some Venezuelans out in Venezuela with trafficking Venezuelans to Trinidad and Tobago. A bunch of young men. Also in the news with our Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister also is looking to have a little change on the CARICOM treaty, because presently they're trying to get that free trade, free movement thing going in the Caribbean, and they're failing at it. There seems to be some countries that aren't really as excited about the whole free movement up and down the Caribbean as everybody else would be. So they're looking to have some changes to the whole treaty business in CARICOM to possibly treat with that. To hopefully treat with that. We'll see how that goes. Because the idea there is that as it stands, to get things done in CARICOM, it needs unanimous support, and they're looking at changing it where you don't need unanimous support to get changes done. We'll see how that goes. The cabinet recommends a Nigerian company to restart the refinery. A Nigerian runner for the new refinery starting up. I wonder if the PNM manages to get that refinery up and running before election hits, if that's going to be successful in the political fray, if they're going to see that as a plus. Because that's how politics runs sometimes, eh? You leave the roads bumpy and destroying people's vehicles for 4 years. The last year before election, you pave the road, and people get 6 months of smooth road and feel like bite up shillings and hey, the government doing something. So, is it that the government can come in the last hour here and get a runner for the Petrotrain refinery, get its back up and running, and have a big plus in their column come election? That would be interesting. That would be some very interesting stuff. Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. If you are viewing this on TikTok, double tap the screen over there. That's how you hit the like button there. If you are viewing this live on YouTube, please do hit that like button. It is much appreciated. It really does help with that algorithm and all that good stuff. You can also view all of these lives on repeat. Yes, let them come. Others come to do other work. Well, are you talking about the free trade? What exactly are you talking about? The freedom of movement through CARICOM you're talking about there? Once you're on the inside, as I said, hit that like button. If you are viewing this on repeat over there on YouTube, Nathan Spring on YouTube, if you are not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. Good stuff, really good stuff. Head over and subscribe. If you are not yet subscribed, drop a comment. If you are viewing this here on YouTube on repeat, the comments really do help, and I like to know, you know, people are listening. I'm not just talking to myself out here. Do share the video for people who might like this kind of content. Good stuff for those. It's a Thursday. On a Thursday, what we usually do is Thursday talks. Any questions or comments on the inside, we tackle that. But it seems like some of the regular talkers aren't on the inside, so there's always news to hit up with. We're gonna dive into some news then in that case, looking at oil and gas here in Trinidad and Tobago. Oil and gas news. Let's see if we can get those pulled up. All right, no, I am on the African lineup. So you're on the Nigerians, on the Nigerians coming to run the refinery. Well, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that lines up. If people are, if they have what it takes to actually buy the refinery, if they have what it takes to run the refinery, if they have what it takes to get it up and going as it should. These pages giving some trouble to come up. Yes, I will love that. Why will you love that, Anstey Douglas? Why will you love that a Nigerian company takes it over? What difference does it make if it's Nigerian once they run it, eh? Or is it a pro-African thing that you'd prefer an African company coming in to run this, and you think that may be of some benefit to the diaspora or to the advancement of the black cause or something of the such? Because in that case, then I don't know how I'd feel about that. Or because they can. Well, I mean, if because they can is the reason, that's fine by me too. Let's see if we could dive into some of these oil and gas stories. Trump ends Chevron Venezuela oil production license. Reports coming out of Washington, D.C. have indicated that U.S. President Donald Trump has reversed concessions given to Venezuela by former President Joe Biden that allowed Chevron to expand its production in Venezuela and bring the country's crude oil to the United States. A Reuters report said Trump made the announcement in a post on Truth Social, saying that he was reversing the concessions of the oil transactions agreement dated November 26, 2022. We are hereby reversing the concessions that crooked Joe Biden gave to Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, he said in his Truth Social post. He said the concessions had something to do with the electoral conditions within Venezuela, which have never been met by the Maduro government. Additionally, the regime has not been transporting the violent criminals they sent into our country, the good old USA, back to Venezuela at the rapid pace they agreed to. I am therefore ordering that the ineffective and unmet Biden concession agreement be terminated as of March 1st. Now, this isn't exactly our own. This is another concession that the former US administration gave to Venezuela with the intention of seeing some progress in Venezuela's election. The idea being they would give them some ease up on being able to get that oil and gas out to the international market, if only they just allow a free and fair election. What Trump is saying is the election wasn't free and fair anyway, and they aren't doing what we want them to do in this present administration. So, fire for all of those concessions, forget about that. You know, that's part of the difficulty in dealing with democratic countries in the first place. That's part of the difficulty with dealing with democratic countries in the first place. When governments change, they can change their mind, and governments change relatively regularly. In democratic countries, every 4 years; in the United States, every 5 years in Trinidad and Tobago. If you are someone from the outside, if you are an external party, if you are a corporation, another country, and you're trying to make a deal with us, and you make a deal, but then government changes and the new government says, well, I don't like that deal. Like, I was watching that even with Ukraine and some of that whole war and business. If treaties were made in 1980, if one country made a treaty in 1980, well, it actually was in the early 90s, and said that, okay, if you do this, that, and the other, we are going to come and help you if anybody tries to fight you. We are going to send our soldiers to help you fight off anybody that tries to fight you. You are our ally now. But then a generation passes. The soldiers that made that promise and the administration that made that promise are all dead and gone. Can you hold a fresh new generation to a promise of selling their lives for you? Can you hold them to that? Aluminum smelter is a good example. Yeah, it is Joe Gibbs. One government says yes, another says no. What you're going to do? They change their mind what you're going to do. It's the benefit that some authoritarian countries actually have. Like China, for example. They have that stability over a much longer time period. The Express has it as not just the Chevron deal, but U.S. Secretary of State, all Biden-era oil licenses to be revoked. A day after it was announced that a permit issued by the United States government allowing Chevron Corp to pump and export Venezuelan oil would be terminated, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that all oil and gas licenses approved by former President Joe Biden will be revoked. He said on X, "Today, pursuant to the President of the United States directive, I am providing foreign policy guidance to terminate all Biden-era oil and gas licenses that have shamefully bankrolled the illegitimate Maduro regime." Now, that previous Chevron license that got cut, all right, that didn't have anything to do with us. When you're saying all now, I think that might possibly have an effect on our Dragon gas deal that we were looking at. Trinidad and Tobago has several cross-border deals with Venezuela, including the Dragon gas project and Kokuna Manakin. Acting Prime Minister Stuart Young, this country's substantive energy minister, is expected to address the issue in the post-cabinet press briefing scheduled to start at 3 p.m. today. Young is acting as Prime Minister as Dr. Keith Rowley is traveling to California, USA for a private trip today. During his keynote address at the energy conference earlier this month, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley stated Trinidad and Tobago will seek to engage with and update the new U.S. administration on the importance of the potential cross-border projects between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. Nathan, do you know that includes the license that Trinidad got? Why do we as a sovereign nation need a license to extract resources on our side of the border? I spoke about this when it first came up, that when you think about it, this is a ridiculous proposition. It's a ridiculous state of affairs when you really think about it in what should be. I mean, if you think about it in what is and how the world functions, how it has always functioned, you understand it. But in what should be, and in sovereign countries supposedly having say over what they do on their own, this sounds pretty ridiculous. We want to use our natural resources that are in our border, and some of it crosses our border into Venezuela's border. What should that have to do with anybody but us and them? However, the reality is we don't live in that total free world that we like to imagine. The resources are on the Venezuela side. From what I understand, it straddles both. So it's not like it's on their side, it straddles both. So it's shared. The oil and gas doesn't respect international borders like that. So it's shared. But unfortunately, we don't live in that totally free, fair world that we imagine. We live in a world of superpowers, and the superpowers see what goes. It is a kind of imperialistic something that we have to wait on the big guys to see what we could and what we can't do, but it is what it is. And when you think about it to some extent, the reason it is that way, that I regularly point out when we talk about this, yeah, you could say it's wicked on the United States part, but what they're really dealing with there is not even that they're saying they're going to fight you for doing something else. No, they're saying that they won't trade with you, and I think that's their prerogative. Just as we say it should be up to us to decide what we do with our resources, shouldn't it be up to them to decide what they do with their trade? And that's the position that they're taking. They would refuse to trade with people who do XYZ. I mean, as a sovereign country, shouldn't they have that authority too? And I guess we do have the ability to say fire ban earlier, and we're going to do what we want to do, and we could do that and try and utilize that dragon gas field and forget about the United States and see if we could get into a trading circle excluding them. But I don't think we're going to go down that route. Reuters report from February 25th, that's 2 days ago, Trinidad to seek U.S. extension for Shell's gas project in Venezuela. Trinidad and Tobago plans to ask U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to extend the license for Shell and Trinidad's natural gas company to develop a key gas project in Venezuela. 4 sources close to the preparations said the U.S. license was granted in early 2023 as an exemption to Washington sanctions on Venezuela. It enabled NGC and Shell to move forward on planning and preparation for the Dragon natural gas project off Venezuela's coast, aimed at supplying gas to Trinidad from around 2027. Washington amended the license in 2023 to allow payments in hard currency or in kind to Venezuela and its state company PDVSA for gas supplies, and extended the expiration date to October 2025. Shell and NGC will need an extension to begin production once they make a final investment decision on the project, which is expected this year, the sources added. Wait. Yeah, I remember that too, Abdul. Hey, Ronnie. Wait. I thought this deal initially was that we couldn't pay Venezuela in cash that they could use. We had to pay them in resources that couldn't be used to benefit the regime. I wasn't privy to the fact that in 2023, it was amended for us to be able to pay them in hard cash. You all were aware of that? Well, were you all even aware of the original deal and the original setup that we weren't supposed to give them any real money that they could use? It was supposed to, just somehow magnanimously help their citizens without helping the administration. And I was asking when they first came up with this setup for the deal, I was wondering how on earth are we going to do that? But apparently that was just the original setup to get it through the news. I didn't know this changed. I never saw this in a local news article. Maybe they reported it and I just didn't read it, but I never saw this. Yes, that's as far as I know, Tony the Ambassador. That's what I knew as far as I knew. According to planning by the two companies, Dragon's initial production flow should be around 200 million cubic feet per day, one of the sources said. U.S. sanctions target the entire Venezuelan oil and gas industry, which is controlled by PDVSA, meaning countries like Trinidad and private operators that abide by the measures require U.S. licenses to export or pay revenue to sanctioned entities, including the government, the central bank, and PDVSA. I am not sure when that change occurred either, and I believe that change might make it a bit more difficult for us to go down the regular, for us to get that license approved in the same way. I think that license may have to be edited a bit. I'm not sure if the present administration would be just okay with us handing Venezuela cash, hard cash, and lots of it. I don't know. I would say unlikely if I were to guess. I would say unlikely if I were a guessing man. So, I suppose Dr. Rowley, when in his trip to the United States, he may hopefully get an answer on some of that. Let's look local in the oil and gas. Tonight is what? Tonight is Thursday. But no one was in the discussion, so we were going through the oil and gas. We need BRICS fast to stop U.S. sanctions. Well, Joe Gibbs, BRICS is being sanctioned by the US itself. And BRICS hasn't yet reached the size to compete effectively with the US. So if as Trump promised, anybody going with BRICS is going to get the harshest of US sanctions, who's going to do it? I believe people will begin to drop BRICS like a hot potato from the moment those sanctions are effective. That's just the reality. To stop US sanctions. To stop US sanctions, things that we need other trading currencies. Like cryptocurrency. yeah, that would work. Crypto does work. But the thing with crypto is crypto has downsides too. There was the largest heist recorded on crypto happened was it last week or this weekend? Some North Korean hackers made away with some over $1 billion, which would be billion dollars in crypto. So, I mean, it's not like it's super secure like that. There are problems inside there. And with certain crypto, it's pretty easy to trace if you know what you're doing. It's traceable and trackable. And with the newer ones, it's kind of fungible. It's cheatable. People and their S coins, their ish coins, they've been doing all kind of weird stuff with that. So crypto may not be as promising as it once seemed like it was lining up to be. But yes, people, as Ronnie pointed out, it is Thursday. It's a Thursday Talks. If you have any questions or comments on the inside, feel free to ask them. You can jump in and join the discussion too. No, wait, the reality is the global South trade is bigger than US trade. Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Because I don't think so. I don't think that the global South trade is bigger than the US trade like that. I wasn't asking for that. I just got, oh. As of 2022, the United States had total trade exports of about $7 trillion, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. Trade among developing countries reached $4.7 trillion in 2012. So yeah, quite a lot of trade among the global South. But that's it. The trade isn't the main issue there, really and truly. What's new, Ronnie? The trade itself isn't the only main issue there, because the US trade would be a bit dwarfed because they have a massive internal market. They do a lot of trade interior, and a lot of the global South, their trade is tied up with the United States, as in they require the US market to effect their trade. That's why they do it, and that's why the tariffs have been so effective coming from Trumpy boy, because many countries, a significant portion of how they make their money is trade with the United States. If you trade 40% of your exports with the United States, but the United States exports 0.00003% of their exports to your country, then if you put a tariff on them for their exported goods, it's barely going to affect anyone. If they put a tariff on you for your exported goods, that's 40% of your economy, at least your export economy, that would be affected there. That's why the tariffs work the way they do. That's why they get so many people dancing. So many people are speaking about, these tariffs aren't effective, they aren't doing anything. Abdul, weren't you saying previously that the Mexican president only giving him a run? The figures are coming in now. The Mexican president has forsaken their previous view. The Mexico had a previous view of hugs, not bullets, when dealing with the cartels. She cancelled that the starting of this year. You see how threats of tariffs get effective? They have increased the crackdown on cartels by something like mid-20s, like 25 or something % increase in crackdown and activity against cartels. They started trying to round up the lieutenants in El Chapo's son's cartel. You know how some of those things might run. Who knows if they're just in cahoots with the cartel, allowing a little show for the media there, but who knows? There are changes being made. And you look at, I believe he threatened Europe with tariffs recently, and immediately the European Trade Commissioner, whatever he is, the guy in charge of trade, said they're willing to make a deal and change the current arrangement. Well, look at that. The tariffs are effective because of that, and that's what makes it difficult. If the US says we are not going to import anything again from Trinidad and Tobago, What are we going to do? There's a story that kind of spoke about some of that. The story was speaking about more than just that, but it referenced the effect of this. Let me see if I can pull up that story. Yo, the goddess. All right, it's a story here about CARICOM and amending the CARICOM treaty, where our Prime Minister is saying that what they want to do is change that CARICOM treaty so that they could make changes in policy with CARICOM with not necessarily needing everybody on board as is currently the case. Let's look at that. PM, CARICOM to amend Treaty of Chaguaramas. CARICOM intends to amend the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas to allow the regional bloc to action policies without a unanimous vote from members. Originally signed in 1973 and revised in 2001, the treaty established CARICOM. The Prime Minister said decision was made because holdouts were hindering progress to a regional single market and economy. Not to destroy the treaty, not to expose ourselves to capricious action, but to say that on matters where some countries are ready to go forward and others are not ready, that small subgroup that is ready to go forward must be allowed to go forward within the ambit of the revised treaty. Joe says China now controls the supply chain of the majority of minerals. Yes, that is true. But controlling the supply chain is only as effective as the people who buy the end product. So you control the supply chain that is only monetized because there is a US market for the end product. If you get shut out from the US market, that entire supply chain that you control is just going to be a liability. And that's what we're going to talk about even in this article that we're raising here. You're going to see what part of the reason. Now, the idea that Dr. Rowley is putting forward here, I could see the problems with that. You see, as a regional bloc, the reason you would want it to be that there must be unanimous votes. You don't want it to be that you as a country, you're sitting down in your regional bloc inside CARICOM, and CARICOM is making a decision that is going to affect all of your members, all of your population, all of your citizens. And your citizens disagree with this. And Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia could come together and make a decision that would affect all of the trainees, with all of us saying we don't want it. That's a recipe for the regional bloc having some instability. So the idea in CARICOM that any decision must be unanimous makes sense, but also you see why that's a limiting factor. Joe Gibbs, you are just reiterating the point I'm making. I feel like you are listening past what I'm saying. Like what I'm saying is passing either over your head or through your ears. Yes, the US needs the minerals. They have to buy it. That's kind of the point. When they buy it, they give money to the people who had it before. If they decide not to buy it, then all the reason for digging the mineral out the ground and transporting it and all the money you make is for naught. But yeah, the problem that Dr. Rowley is highlighting there is the problem with nearly any one of those rules that we make to ease up on corruption and to ease up on bad habits and bad decisions in governance. You see, to ease up on bad decisions, bad habits in governance, on corruption in governance, wastage in governance, you want to make sure you have a lot of checks and balances. You want to make sure that decisions aren't extremely easy to make. But that's the problem. When you do that, you create a lot of bureaucracy and decisions aren't easy to make. It's very difficult to get things moving forward. And that's the problem that Dr. Rowley is highlighting here. Without naming the country, Dr. Rowley said there was one territory whose vote in the negative has been holding up the Caribbean single market and economy. There's a territory in the Caribbean, a very well-known one, where the whole question of freedom of movement of CARICOM people, is an issue for that country. Because notwithstanding there being no freedom of movement, as we all hunger after, already in that country there are almost as many people from outside their territory, from CARICOM, than their locals. And it has become a political issue as to whether they could do more of that through freedom of movement, where the outcome will be that there'll be more outsiders than their native islanders in the territory. So that sounds a bit obscure and confusing on what he's talking about. I think he did not say the name of the territory. I think, as a matter of opinion, I think he's talking about Barbados. Yeah, not Barbados, Bahamas, Bahamas. Because Bahamas has a lot of Haitians. Bahamas population, I think, is something like 400,000, but they're relatively close to Haiti, and they're a territory. Are they a territory of the United States or some kind of familiarity like that that makes it an easy hop, skip, and jump kind of thing? So, if you create free movement in CARICOM and you have 400,000 native Bahamans, are you just going to empty Haiti into Bahamas and the local Bahamans will suffer from that? And it's easy to sit in Trinidad and say, well, you bad if you don't want that. But if you are a Bahaman, would you want Haitians outnumbering your local population? Like, be real, be honest. No. I believe you know how there are different levels to membership kind of thing? I think it's something like that. Yeah, Logan. Yeah. They are. But let's look at this. He pointed to He pointed to a new roadway being constructed in Guyana that reaches the Brazilian border. He said with TNT being just a few hours away from Guyana, it could leverage this with the CSME. That would open up to us an area of food supply that has never been open to us before. Referencing the Nutrimix venture, Rowley said industries like agriculture cannot limit their focus on the local market, which has a population of about 1.3 million people. He said free trade with the CSME could lend to higher profits. For example, he said while working in Chile years ago, the best filet mignon steak cost just $2, as they could not export it due to concerns about hand, foot, and mouth disease. Now that those barriers have been lifted and the meat could be exported, Rowley said it commands a price of $25. All right. So, this is why the US has so much leverage on countries. If you're in Chile and you're producing beef cattle, beef cows for meat, and well, this was because of disease, but if because of export that the US has locked down, you don't have an export market, all you could do is sell your cattle to local people. The price was $2. Yes. If you could sell it to the international market, the price goes up to $25. And that's why Mr. Joe Gibbs, regardless of regardless of the US wanting the minerals, they still have the power. Nature Lover says Trump eradicated the checks and balances in the US. Orange Man is king. What foolishness are you talking, sir? What checks and balances did he eradicate? When? Where have you read this? Where have you seen this? Which check and which balance was eradicated in the United States? Because as far as I see, just about every decision he made, every executive order he made was challenged in the courts. And there were numerous courts that literally stopped him from doing what he wanted to do. So I don't know how he eradicated the checks and balances. That's some insane exaggeration. We suffering with all them Benny here, and with what Orange Man did, it will get worse. Do you mean sending Venezuelans home from the United States, it may get worse here? I could see that being true. I can see that being true. I can't deny that. I can see that being a fact. Now, as I said when we first spoke about that, when that first came up, I don't blame the US for making decisions that are selfishly to their benefit. Because if you're saying that we are suffering here with all them Veni them, wouldn't the Americans be saying the same thing? Like what's the point being made there? Are you saying that the Americans should have kept all the Venezuelan immigrants so that we don't have to get them? As long as they ban paper straws, I'll be happy. Me too, Gil. Me too. Bring back common sense in the place. We need a little dose of common sense. Paper straws. And on children drinks, listen, if you all get me started on the paper straws, we'll never done. Because tell me this, people. How are you selling a chocolate milk drink for children with a paper straw? By the time it reached down to the last of the drink, the straw dissolving. Chocolate everywhere. Like, you know why? It's because a set of childless people coming to the design realm in the world. That's the problem. The problem is these millennial generation people didn't have no children. And now they're reaching to designing things and they don't understand that you design with children in mind. People still buy it. Yes, Joseph can. People still buy it because it was kind of forced. And that's part of the problem with even the electric vehicles to some extent. If you are forcing something from top down, of course people would use it. 80% of global trade used the USD a few years ago. It is now 50%. BRICS is working. No, that is not because of BRICS. That is not because of BRICS. That's because every region is now better at communicating with each other. That's because ICT is a thing now where you could communicate with people. That's because crypto market has blown up in the last decade. That's partially because the Saudis have decided they're willing to sell oil elsewhere. That's partly because the US has knocked Russia out of that system, and Russia has to trade with India and China, and they will do it in something other than the US dollar. So no, it's not really about BRICS. As much as we may like it, well, I don't know for we, but as much as some people may like it to be that way. Me too, Ronnie. As much as I could, I asked for a plastic straw. That's folly. I want no paper straw. And you all know that's not just because of one viral video on the internet. People saw a straw stuck in a turtle's nostrils, and oh no, the empathetic bleeding heart super environmentalists decide that all of us must suffer drinking through a dissolving straw because of a straw in a turtle's nostril. Poor turtle. But he's we up. Paper straws aren't gonna save the turtles. Really and truly. Give me a ease. Any further questions or comments on the inside? The pollution out of hand worldwide. Oh, Darius, the food in your belly already, boy. Food in your belly already. I don't believe that is the reason Joseph Kahn says. I am pretty sure that was a major part of the reason. That was part of the impetus that created activism that pushed to ban plastic straws. Are you waiting for an ad? I didn't know that. What going on, Ronnie? Oh gosh, my volume playing low by. I don't know why.
I drink it with my plastic straw. Always and forever. Yeah, the straw. Certainly the straw. Anyway, guys, it's Tuesday. I don't know how late I am. I think you probably tell how early it was. I got so very late. Anyway, it's on I was thinking about something while I want to visit my
What's that?
plastic. I hate that shit. Sorry, I hate that one too.
Isn't that the thing they worry would be giving us a set of microplastics in the place?
Yeah, that's like every single time I don't have no solutions, just use the bad thing and done. At the end of the day, it have no environment if we all die. So let us live and let the environment die. We will solve the problem, but the environment can't solve the problem if we all die.
I mean, I mightn't say it as brutal as you said it there, Ronnie. I mightn't put it as brutal like that. But to some extent, yeah. To some extent, yes. As in, what's the point of saving nature if there aren't humans to enjoy it?
Exactly.
Like the environmentalists that speak as if they rather humans die out than affect nature negatively. Why do you care about nature if there are no humans here to enjoy it? What's the point?
No point. Yeah, we are like literally the biggest part of nature, like literally. We are the top bosses here.
Here's the thing, Joseph Kahn. The paper straw fad didn't exactly start with the video, but that video, filmed in 2015 by marine biologist Christine Figgener, definitely turbocharged the movement against plastic straws, paving the way for alternatives like paper straws to gain traction. So yes, it was
And paper straws not even good.
a stupid video of a turtle. And don't get me wrong, I love animals. I'm an animal lover. I like turtles are cool animals. First it was like whoa, and then it was like whoa, and then it was like whoa, and then it was like whoa. I mean, we grew up with the turtles, so I like them, but the paper straws ain't working. Plastic is the biggest failure.
Really bad.
Plastic is the biggest failure that was said to be the solution to glass. I think you don't even understand about how important plastic has been in the advancement of humankind. You do not want to live in a world where there isn't plastic, sir or ma'am. You do not want that. So yes, we abuse plastic. Yes, it causes problems. But the benefits of plastic, far outweigh those challenges.
Before they were plastic, they were paper straws.
Okay, and Before people slept on feather pillows, people slept on stones. Point being, I'm going to go and buy a slab of stone and put it on my nice king size? No. I'll care about the environment when the filthy rich activists stop using private jets. Yeah, and they tell you the oceans are going to rise, but they all keep buying seafront property. You listen to them. The environment can't survive without us. We can't survive without the environment. Who tells you the environment can't survive without us? Who tells you that? How you know that? How would we know that?
Who cares
Have you ever heard the philosophical statement, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest with no one seeing it, does it even fall? You see, there's a common sense. No, that's actually not quite common.
But who cares if the environment survives without us? We are literally the only beings on the planet that could even identify the greatness of the environment. What would it matter if we don't exist? The environment ceased to exist.
What is the point of saving the environment if humans aren't there?
Exactly.
Like,
does make no sense.
And you know what's so hypocritical about that? As who was it? Was it Joe that just said about the filthy rich environmentalists there? What's so hypocritical about that is some of these people who would talk like, it's best we humans die and the environment live. And you watch their lives. You watch how they live. And it's because their parents are some filthy rich multimillionaires. They live a life of privilege. They're extracting more than anybody else in the world. And they're looking for all of us to suffer because they read some book that make them feel guilty. Man, ease we up.
They mean it is better for poor people to die. Rich people could live. And rich people will always live because they will always be able to pay the levies that these environmentalists want to put on everybody. They will be able to outbid every single thing that environmentalists bring about. It makes no sense. So poor people want to kill out themselves for the environment, and rich people will kill the environment before they even say, you know what, I will just travel on a regular plane like everybody else. Please, you guys, release me.
You know what is the most reliable way to make people environmentally conscious? Make them rich. So, if you want to cure the world's environment problems, work on the world's economic problems. Don't go and tell poor people that they need to stop using plastic straws. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. When people are trying to make ends meet, they will use whatever is necessary. And you see that all over. So Germany was one of the top in this whole environmental and let's not dirty the planet. As soon as war started with Russia and that natural gas cut off, they started kick up coal plant belching black smoke in the air, full speed ahead. You take them on. And you make yourself suffer for the environment. Nature is life. If all humans disappear, environment will thrive. If the environment disappears, we won't thrive. So we have to we have to decrease our carbon footprint. And the people that telling you that, making the biggest footprint and squashing you down underneath it, you go ahead now, man. You be bright. You be bright. You're watching an environmental convention with 350 private jets on the tarmac. And they're telling you that commercial flight will be a thing of the past. We can't afford to have to be flying on vacation 3 times per year and things like that. That's just not right. It's like when Colm Imbert told the nation that we don't need cars with big engines. We don't need those big engines because he was increasing the taxes on it. A couple weeks after he buy a Mustang with a big engine. So
I don't understand. I don't get it. What would it matter? Like, oh my gosh. And half of these people talking these things, they don't even have children to even say, well, I care about my children and what my children gonna have to deal with. Or they have no children anyway, because most of them don't have no children. or they believe in children, or they believe that we will need less people kind of stupid. I don't give a anyway. So that is that. I can't even remember how I end up on this live, you know. I wanted to say something. Shucks. I was trying to censor myself so much too.
It's something like it would be problems if you don't censor yourself there. So keep the censor on it.
I could. I know, man. I don't know, man. But at the end of the day, just I'm a real nature lover. I can't talk for people. I don't talk for people, you know. But at the end of the day, like when you really listen to it, listen to what people really saying here, right? When you buy a plane ticket, they want to charge you CO2 tax and all kind of stupidness. When you really understand what really going on, it's for poor people to suffer, you know, because rich people will pay for it. So it's not even about the environment. It's like when Massey say, we're not doing plastic bags anymore, yet they're selling you a plastic bag for 25 cents. It's either you care about the environment or you don't. Because you're telling people that they could buy the way out of caring for the environment, basically. That's what you're saying. When you're telling people, don't use this and don't use that, but in order for you to use it, you have to pay a tax. You don't care about the environment, you care about making money. So, I don't know what to tell all you know. At the end of the day, I fly now, I paid my O2 tax, my CO2 tax. You understand? Because I rich enough. Well, they're not rich enough, well, hard lucks.
And that's the truth. A lot of those ideas, what they will do is change the world into a tiered system. They will ossify the classes, make sure that the classes just remain the way they are, and lock you into those positions. If you are in the position where you could never get a commercial flight, you could never see another country, you born, grow, forever live, die, work in this one little spot, while the superiors and betters go all about. And to me, some of the worst people in that kind of arrangement, I mean, if you are part of an elite class and you're trying to make things better for yourself, I understand it selfishly. Like, it is what it is, people are selfish, that's life. But it's one of the worst groups are the people inside that lower group that buy fully into the make-believe that is being sold to them. And they're there making sure their fellow slaves remain as slaves because this is the right thing to do. We've got to do it for the environment, brothers. Like, come on, man. Give your ease up. Give your ease up. Let's not.
No, go listen to them. Oh gosh, using the wrong thing on my face. Yeah, but don't listen to them, man. Take those flights, drink from that plastic straw. Do what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, you don't even come. Like literally, you have people flying on jets. So you telling me a plastic straw is equivalent to a jet? Could never be. Could never be. And these environmentalists, how much of them own private jets? Look at it. Look at who own the private jets. You might be surprised. The same Bill Gates, we're telling only about we have too much people on the state. You understand?
And the problem is cows making too many farts in the place. So we got to change from eating real cow meat, and we will design a fake cow meat in a lab and feed all of that to you. No thanks.
Thing to kill you.
People are getting sick because of what we're eating and drinking. Yes, that fake cow and all that high fructose corn syrup. Give it a ease. We need to live in a sustainable way. What does that mean? And you see, the problem with me and this sustainable, I went to school in the 2000s. Everything we did in geography, environmental, had the word sustainable in it. But what I've come to recognize is the word sustainable is kind of a propaganda term. There's a political meaning and reference that they have in mind with this. They don't mean sustainable in the literal meaning of sustainable when they say it, as in we've got to figure out a way to keep this going. No, when they say sustainable, they're talking about the sustainability goals of the United Nations and their development plans for 2030. And that's not sustainability. Requiring gender parity in all sections of the workforce. That's not sustainability. That has nothing to do with it. And that's the problem for me and this sustainable way. Like, I don't think anyone disagrees that we have to live in a sustainable way. Like, who is going to disagree with this? You know, one of the best ways you get people, as we were talking about, one of the best ways you get people to be more environmentally conscious is you make them richer. One of the best ways you get people to be more sustainability minded is get them involved in family. Someone with children obviously is concerned about sustainability. Who is more concerned about sustainability? The 20-year-old environmental science activist student who has no children, no care about anything, and is a nihilist, atheist person saying that it doesn't matter anyway, we all gonna die. Or the middle-aged parent who is trying to make ends meet for their children and they're looking forward to grandchildren in the next couple decades. Who is more interested in sustainability? And somehow the United Nations style of development world convinced us that some young activist talking about climate change is someone who would actually really have a more keen mind on sustainability than on parents and families. No parent wants the world to end in 20 years. So, obviously, yes, sustainable, but what do we mean by that? Yeah, Ronnie?
You know something? I don't know if the UN, if this is the UN, or if it's just like the person that offered me an interview. I went to a UN, I don't even know what the hell that was. It was a caravan. Something.
Good night, sweet Douglas.
And I literally went there and told them that every single point they had was trash. And they were like, oh my gosh, I so want to hear what you have to say. Remember, I told her I had that interview at UN. That was last week Friday. I didn't even go, honestly. I forgot. But, yeah, it's like they kind of want to go away from it, but not too far away from it. So it's not even that they 100% believe what they say, but they kind of willing to veer if more people would speak out about it. Because a lot of people, when I went where I went, a lot of people, because they did like surveying and stuff, and I found from reading off of what people were saying, a lot of them were like more or less agreeing with what the UN said. Because I even had a conversation with one of them asking about these 16 sustainable goals and stuff that they have. And the one thing that I was questioning was education for all. Right? It's not that I'm against education, but like this conversation was, if I am a farmer and I make my children farm, does that make me a bad parent? You know, like my child may not be able to go to school, but they'll have a farm.
Here's something to consider on that. I like the point you're making, and I agree with the education for all. You see, when many of the modern thinkers talk about education for all, they're talking about formal state-run education. And here are some interesting factors they talk about. They say that when you educate women more, they have less children. And I wonder to myself, is this just when you educate women more, or when you place more women inside of formal state-run education facilities? Like, is it that when women become more intelligent, they become less interested in propagating the human species? That seems counterintuitive to me. Or is it that when you set up your country in a conveyor belt from the age of 4 till the age of 24 to learn things assigned by an ever-increasing government that believes they have the solution to all problems, that is what kills the drive for family? Because you look at more homeschooled people, and very often they excel academically without the disdain for family. So I'm starting to believe the decrease in the birth rate kind of thing that goes along with increased education, it's not a bug, it's a feature. You know, it's not something that happens and oh no, how did that happen? No, it's something that they want. Especially when you look at these people. It's kind of strange. These same people are the same kind of people that keep saying the world has too many people. And then they're saying, we just happen to educate you all and women have less. We just happen to do that. Really? What a convenient coincidence. What a convenient coincidence. And they're really upset because Africa is the fastest growing continent. There are lots of young people in Africa. So they are very interested in getting in there and educating everyone.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. No thanks. I prefer not. I don't trust you people.
Who would? Who would trust these people? Look at what they're doing around the world, right? And I feel so sorry for a lot of my girlfriends because unfortunately for them, they have literally no hope. They would talk about how an abortion is better than to have a child, right? And some of them are actually of the belief that it is better if you're poor not to have children, right? So therefore, again, you are literally telling people the finer things in life or the better things in life or the good things in life are only for people with money. Rich people alone could have children. Rich people alone could go on vacation. Rich people alone. So you as a poor person must work your life, day in and day out, to pay some bills, not even have children to see what our future will look like. Come on, man. And you buying wholesale. And you literally preaching now. I have a girlfriend who just preached that literally. We had a whole conversation and she had to tell me about how fetus is a parasite. And I was like, what?
That's such an evil thing to say. That is like, listen, when you consider that in the Western world, the chief proponents of abortion are young, baby-making age women. That is a hell of a propaganda campaign that they want. You, the only kind of individual that can bear humans and bring them into the world, are convinced that when humans are helplessly growing inside you, they are parasites. And the thing that people that say that don't like to admit is the same reasoning that a baby in the womb is a parasite would fit for the same for a child up till the age of probably 16, you know. Like, people act like a 2-year-old could take care of themselves and feed themselves. No. A child is helpless for a considerable period of time. So if they're a parasite, then all toddlers are parasites too.
Yep.
That's dark. That's some dark stuff. I read a cool quote somewhere. It said our leaders aren't stupid, they're complicit. Good quote. Good quote.
I don't know, because like eventually when I did push out to be like, so tell me when is a good cutoff time? Because that's the thing. It's either you believe or you don't believe, right? And if you do believe, like, when is a good cutoff time for you?
Good night, Anne Marielle.
And I can't even remember when she said it was, but she did say, you know, like, I think she said something reasonable, like about 8 weeks or something like that, which can be deemed reasonable by some people, and by other people it's still not enough time. But at the end of the day, to kill a child that you make, or for your own doing, nothing. Your child never asked to be there.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Find yourself to be there, and it's like for you to justify it in any way, it's just crazy to me.
But that's the reality. That to me, the desperation to justify it is part of the way you recognize that people kind of know that this is a dark thing. If they didn't think it was a dark thing, they wouldn't see the need to justify it. And you know, like as you speak about it, poor people and children, that's something that I like to discuss regularly, where people make it seem like, and imagine if somebody poor and you let them out. So wait, if somebody's poor, they shouldn't have any children. Their genetics, their family line should just die out there. And the reality is that for human history, about everybody was poor. If people held to that ideal, humans would have died out a long time ago. Yes, Elle, I actually did a contemplation on that a long time ago, probably easily 2-3 years ago. I did something on that, the very meaning of education and the foundations of it. And like for me, the problem with poverty and children isn't poverty and children. It's how many children and the timing of the children. So if you are someone struggling in poverty and you are not together with the father of the child, this is your third child from a next person, that's a problem that is going to bring you to more poverty. But if you are someone struggling in some poverty, but you and the other parent are married, and you all are planning these out, you're not just popping them as fast as they come, those two children are not going to drag you further into poverty. In fact, they may be the impetus to pull you right out. They shouldn't have too much, Nathan, like turning up and you're struggling. I mean, no. That's what I'm saying. That's what the problem with poverty and children is not the poverty and children itself. Is the number of children and the timing of the children. It's not the children in and of itself. Because I wouldn't doubt, because it certainly feels like it and seems like, and it's kind of true. You look at most of the wealthiest people in the world and their parents. Parenthood has a way of increasing your drive. And if you're good at the parenting thing, within not that long time, the children would flip around from a liability to an asset. So it's not just that poor people should not have children, because you look at it in Trinidad and Tobago context and look at some of those cane farmers and rice farmers, the East Indian community, and you know Satmaraj was real vexed for how the next generation turning out in some of your East Indian communities. Sat went to the grave vexed with some of y'all, because you had poor families living in a cane field, picking rice. If you all ever work rice, that is something. I understand why they need machines to work this thing. Humans shouldn't be doing this work. And there were people tending rice fields in a swamp, barefoot with children sling on their back and that kind of business, making 9. 3 of them is doctor, 2 is lawyer, and the rest was good government public servant.
And farmers.
Because they understood the parenting thing. Sweet Douglas says that was long time, Nathan, not now. What has changed? It's supposed to be easier now. The problem is the parenting has changed. It's not that the children have changed, and this is something I try to tell many people, like in counseling style, and sometimes we go to camps and that kind of stuff, and I try to iterate this. The children are still human children. It's still the same 46 chromosomes. They're still the normal human babies that have always been born to human people. They aren't changing. They aren't coming out with computer gadgets attached to them. The things that interested children in the 50s will interest them now. It's the parenting has changed. So the parent buys a $3,000 tablet, gives it to the child, gives the child it for 8 hours every day. The child becomes addicted to it, and then the parent turns around and tells you that this child can't do without that. I need $3,000 to keep this child occupied. Otherwise, me what gonna happen. The child, I don't understand. But this child need this. You who give it to the child. You created that scenario, and then you're saying, boy, these modern children different. It's $3,000 I just pay for a tab, and he's mash it up like every 6 months. Boy, children expensive, watch it and all you can't children just so it too expensive. Who fault is that?
But not only that, but when you look at how it's not just the parents that have changed, look at the structure for work. Nowadays it's so different for work. Like government work now in Trinidad and Tobago has become the average, So people more or less, the goalposts are shifted in terms of goals too, and the ease of comfort in work-wise. So you don't really need to be as successful as you needed to be back then, because you'll be bare average. Even worse than that, you'll be mediocre and get the alrightish job, one that will pay your bills. You wouldn't be happy in life, but your bills will be paid. And I think that has also added to the problems that I could see it from Tobago. I could see it especially whereby in Tobago, where people were more hardworking and people were more prideful,
ambitious.
Yeah, but no, they had a pride about themselves. Like the government work wasn't always like it was, and then all of a sudden they became so attached to it to the point where they can't even function without a government work. To the point where the government employs almost 80% or even more than 80% of the average working person in Tobago. So it's like you went from one extreme to the next. And what could even cause that? You gave people a sense of comfort. You gave them that laissez-faire kind of is whatever kind of vibe, and all of that adds to why children could seem different. Like again, as you point out to me, I am in a bubble of itself, but like I look at my friends, most of my friends aren't public servants.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my friends are self-employed because they can't take the government work. They can't take nobody talking to them how they feel like it. I's a big woman, you's a big woman, and if we had to talk like big women, that kind of way. Whereas when you're in the public service, as far as I have experienced thus far, is they talking to you like a child, like because you're so much younger than them. But I employ just as much as you are, that kind of way, and they're talking to you however they feel like talking to you.
As you're talking about that public service and all about the world, it happens. We see the biggest democracy is attempting to fight their public service right now, and I think the public service is kind of socialist, communist kind of in design in and of itself, and I think public service thwarts and changes how people understand work a little bit. Like the public service makes it seem like part of the duty of a government is to make sure everyone has a job and everybody have a work. And if you don't have a work, it's the government's fault. While not really. How humans are supposed to basically function is you become useful and you attempt to be useful to as many people as possible, and that's how you make a living. Like, it's not that there aren't jobs. You just have to become the right kind of useful. And the idea that the government's duty is to put you in an area makes people stop thinking about how to become useful. Like, when you hear some of the degrees that some people do, you understand they aren't considering about becoming useful. They aren't thinking, how do I make myself useful? If you are useful, you will always have work and you will always have money. That's it. As simple as that. The purpose of schooling is supposed to be to refine your usefulness. Why are you doing this if it doesn't make you more useful? And then we go through schooling, come out useless, and are surprised that there isn't a job waiting on our useless selves. Long time you have to have subjects to get a good job. Now people have subjects and no work. Because everyone has subjects, so subjects doesn't set you apart from anybody else. But
everybody and no matter how degree.
But listen, right now, go and learn how to join PVC pipes. Learn the name of the elbow, the color, half inch, 3/4 inch, schedule 80, schedule 40, the different angles, the ball. Go become a plumber. You don't even need a certification. I mean, you should probably get certified if you really want to do it. But you don't need a certification. Go and learn it. And become good at it. And you'll never be out of work. Simple like that.
Wait. That is what I wanted to talk about. As you say that. Let me calm myself. Today I was passing on the Esplanade in Scarborough. And I saw that there was a booth on the Esplanade that was selling little trinkets that was made by local people, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this particular spot. And the particular spot was developed by, I believe it was the Festivals Commission, or it was basically an arm of the THE, right? And I said to myself, look at how they are undermining their own people, because you are buying this product from your people, because it was like tie-dye and different, as I say, trinkets from other people, things that you should have what it is called, a batoon or something, I don't know, it's some big word that they just have. It's like a market, but you could buy like jerseys and different souvenirs from people. And I watched this singular store was buying from different people, different crafts that different vendors would have made and sell it back to tourists. And I was like, these people are undermining their own people, because you could buy that jersey, that tie-dye jersey from that person for $100, sell it back for $100 US. You understand? Because tourists coming off this ship and they are willing. But the thing is, one, most of the vendors, local vendors, they do have the facilities to accommodate transactions in terms of like credit cards and stuff. So they do have the ATM and they do have the Encash or the phone things, right? Instead of you educate the people in terms of getting that done, you buy it from them at a cheap price, you put it in a store and you sell it back for them and you make all the profit.
But you know what that store will do too? You know what that store will make sure? You could hire more workers. You get more employees.
It's only literally one worker they hire.
You get mixed up. You get mixed up. Don't be surprised to have somebody working transporting that, getting paid to transport it.
Have people going, it's okay. So then it's a government thing, so they probably have a source.
Thank you, Kenneth Doyle.
They have a person transporting, doing the transportation, they have a front of sale, they have an HR, they maybe have an accountant.
Exactly.
You understand?
People.
But at the end of the day, before you educate the people, you have about 5 different products selling in that store. So you have about 5 different vendors. Instead of you educating the 5 different vendors and getting their stuff done, you buy from them and take over the work.
Yeah.
And next thing, like carnival, right? I see a lot of carnival bands. They start now introducing, not a lot, I saw at least Ronnie and Caro did it. I don't know if any other bands, I saw 1 or 2 other bands had Monday wear available, right? And this is my thing. There are people who went to classes, you have to pay like what, $3,000-$4,000 to do a Monday wear class to make money wear, so you can make money as a business person. And then these people just come forward and they're like, well, we offering money wear. You understand? You're undermining people. Like, these are things that, these are crafts that people, when they invested in themselves to learn to do, to be better at it, so they can make money. And you want to make all the money for carnival.
For me,
to me, that's so disgusting, and I just hate it. I hate it.
My problem with those things is when the government gain on it. You see, like that in Tobago, because if it's private, then it's a matter of competition. Like if a private company decided that what they would do is go across Tobago, buy trinkets from small craftsmen, and come down to Scarborough and sell it, then fine. That's somebody making an innovative idea. They deserve to make from making their innovative idea. But in the case when it's the state, and here's the problem with it being the state, that isn't your job. You fall into an arena that isn't your job, and you swallow up way more of the economy than you are supposed to, because you aren't incentivized the same way that a private person would be incentivized. Private companies need to run on a profit margin, so what they would do would automatically be something that brings benefit to people, because that's how they make a profit. The government doesn't need to. And that's a major problem in the government getting that. Sweet Douglas says, my son Amari loves IT and he's in that field and still nothing. And this is something I said to someone a couple years ago. IT now. When you say IT, what exactly you mean? I know you're not going to answer that, but you specify what exactly you mean. So what are you looking to do? You like programming? Well, start an Instagram page, start a TikTok page, start doing programming, start writing small programs and put them out there. Show that you're useful. Offer, go in somebody's inbox, pull up in somebody's inbox on Instagram, a big user, and offer them to run some of their IT services. Offer them to create a web page for them, and you do it at a discounted price. That's what you do. If you go to school, get your qualifications, and then sit down and say, well, the government had to find a work for me now. Like, okay, Trinidad and Tobago did run like that for quite some time, but that's not a smart thing. And really and truly, that's not what the government is supposed to do. You are supposed to go out there and become useful. Show people you are useful. If you are very, very skilled and useful at IT, you will get a job. Trust me, there are people looking. It's like when I see those guys wiping windshields by the traffic light, it upsets me. Like, if you are serious about the hustle, well, make the hustle serious. You telling me you all can go down Natco and buy a little overall, and all of you all come out in a green overall together? You trying to tell me you all can save up and buy some kind of little water something, so you know what, you're not wiping people windshield with the same dirty water whole day? Like, get a little air freshener and sell itself. Make this thing like you're serious about pushing forward being useful. But as it stands right now, many of them are attempting to either beg or extort. One out of the two. They're begging you or extorting you. They aren't really looking to provide you with a service, because they're watching clean cars with clean windshields and coming with dirty water and asking if you want a cleaner. No, they aren't supplying a service. They're either looking to pressure you and sort of extort, or make you feel sorry for them and beg a little bit. And you don't need to do that. You can actually provide a service there. And people do have money in this country. Yo, AI is the next frontier. Practical vocational training will save the day. Right now he's doing IT engineering. Good for him. And I hope he learns well. And start a page. Start a page. Show what you learn. Show what you're able to do. It's like, well, graphic design seems to be dressing back a little bit now. But I remember in the late 2000s and the 2000 teens kind of time, graphic design was blowing up. And anybody who wanted to really be serious about graphic design, you need a page. You need to be able to show people, I can design graphics. That's it. As simple as that. As simple as that. And that's kind of what the free market is supposed to entail. You show that you're good at something, that you could provide a service, and on the free market, someone is able to purchase that from you. And you earn what your service provides. Makes sense. That's all I have for now, people. Ronnie, any closing comments before we dive out there?
Just to answer you, big bands like Ronnie and Karande and technically private entities, they receive a grant from the government. So they undermine.
Well, then that's that's like the soca monarch that I spoke about. I don't like this.
That was trash. Winner.
I don't know. But
I'm confused. I don't know who won it, but let me just say this, right? Just you see that soca championship that they open there? Nonsense. Better than the open back soca monarch. Waste of time. I thought they closed soca monarch for that year to open back up, to change it and make it a national competition. Or they open back the damn thing and open it back. Let me do it. Listen, Black and if you listen to this, I love you very bad. Right? I will come and visit you in Grenada. But there is no way. There is literally no way that these people are allowing for international people to enter this competition again. That's stupidness. Because we cannot go in their competitions. I can understand. Let me do like what America say, you know, and we will charge them what they charge us. If we could enter their competitions, they could enter ours. But it have so much of them that we cannot enter their competitions. We can't enter Grenada competition yet. Blacker than we competition. Blacker than I love you bad, but you are from Grenada. And we cannot enter Grenada competition. Matter of fact, when you go to sign up, because I tell when I'm a go, because I say, well, I can sign up for competition. When I go on the registration, literally the absolute first thing on that registration must be a resident of Grenada. Yet, you can come and enter our competition with $1 million of our dollars and go wherever you want. Now, I don't know if you win it. And even if you can't win, you want you get an appearance fee, or two, we had to cheat you so you do it. And I don't feel good about that. You understand? Better you just can't enter. You understand?
Again, to me, the problem with that is government money. If it's a private competition, then who win the money, who money it is, that is the patrons who went, they like themselves, and they pay the person. But if it's government money, you can't, you can't no foreigner come in here, and the government paying the winning prize, and stop that, behave yourself, cut it out.
I want best only give me that $1 million. Yes, I can find plenty.
I rather you give nearly any random trini. Go through the phone book. If we still have a phone book, flip through the pages, pick anybody at random, give them the $1 million, than give a foreign recording artist, a foreign musician that is my view personally.
Anybody, I don't care.
We got to talk about the disabled community.
I understand why they doesn't want to get the people and them the money. Iowa wasn't supposed to win that competition, but how you gonna give it to anybody else? Well, you're crazy. We money not supposed to leave the show. Make it a national competition. I swear that is what they close that competition for. To open it back as a national soca monarch. What the hell care about international and we see big, so we should give them a chance? What the hell we giving them a chance for? Literally, their winners just get a automatic entry into the finals or semi-finals or something stupid like that.
Well, you see, the idea is attempting to make here the mecca of carnival. So you win your small thing and you come down here for the real big thing. And as I said, that wouldn't be a problem if it's a private thing. And you see, here's the thing with it being a private thing. If it was a private thing doing that, then the whole concert, the whole setup of it has to be in such a way to maximize the entertainment value. So people would have really enjoyed it. But when it's a government subvented thing, there's some subvention from government money inside of there. The dependency on the free market isn't 100%. So you don't have that same feedback going on there. So as you said, I agree 100%. When you say PT, life with cerebral palsy, what do you mean by PT? I don't know. Physical training? Public transport. Well, because I saw transportation after. I wanted to know public transportation and accessibility, to name a few. Yeah. Or physical therapy. Well, that was my other guess. Physical therapy.
Physical therapy. My bad. I thought I was get physical therapy for free.
I suppose that might be exactly what he's referring, that there are problems involving all of that.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know the issues in the disabled community. I don't mind that. We can talk about that. Unfortunately, we are at the end. We are at the end tonight. But I don't mind us speaking about that generally. And in that we could probably speak about whether it's disabled or differently abled. I find I don't see that one popping up as much these days. Remember when everywhere was attempting to go with the differently abled, and
I still see it. I was watching that video. Oh, when Marshall had done the school for disabled, and it was somebody in the comments was like, it shouldn't be disabled, it should be differently able. So I asked, like, what the hell is the difference? What's the difference between disabled and differently able?
Words, man, words, because they're trying for you not to feel bad about that now. But listen,
but I should feel bad.
Not bad, but it is a reality that you aren't that you have lost a bit of the ability that humans may generally have. That's a truth, and that's part of why there are concessions to try and help and bring people back up with that, because there's a bit of ability that was lost. That makes sense to me. All right.
Joshua does come almost every
Josiah, bro.
I don't even know who the hell I see.
Josiah Thomas. Look for me tomorrow. If you're here early enough, look for me tomorrow and we could bring up a discussion about that. But I'm looking to head out there now. Unfortunately, so my bad. But if you are here tomorrow around that 9:30 p.m. time when we start, just say so and we'll create a section. You can come up and we'll have that discussion if you so desire. All right, people. Until then, laters. That's all I have for now. Be educated, informed, and entertained. This has been the Mindful Live Show. I am Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. I'll be here again tomorrow for the next Mindful Live. Until then, hold it on. Stay good. Stay inside, outside. They're a little sketchy. Go and marry somebody, child, and make some babies for us.
Again, I am so sorry. You have been here very early. Well, no, you've been here very late. You've been here persistently, but very late. So, good night. Tomorrow. Oh my God, I had so much to drink tonight. I need to relax.
We hearing it on the voice, Ronnie. The voice song in a little kind of like how Tanti Cam's song sometimes.